One other point in the case of the Harvard case, Reverend Al, it was deep because Harvard commissioned these photographs of Paparenti that we've all seen, and they wanted to show the inferiority of descendants of Africa. Well, these photographs, known as daguerreotypes, are 170 years old. Some of the earliest known photographs in the history of the world still in existence, and they're worth about $100 million. Well, Tamara Lanier, a black woman, sued Harvard. We sued Harvard on her behalf to reclaim those photographs, and give all glory to God that last week we transferred those photographs to the International African American Museum in Charleston, South Carolina. But the Massachusetts Supreme Court said this, President Mahama, I think is germane to the arguments that you make before the United Nations. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court of Massachusetts, and what the court recognized is something we cannot ignore, that institutions cannot separate themselves from the harm that they helped create, and that harm does not disappear with time. And then the final point is just this. Global alignment calls for reparations to evolve from moral arguments to economic architecture. I say, sisters and brothers, justice still delayed is not simply justice being denied, but it is justice being actively resisted by present-day actors. And just as these present-day actors are unapologetic in their white supremacist beliefs, sisters and brothers, we must be unapologetic defenders of black life, black liberty, and black humanity. And it starts with this resolution before the United Nations. Thank you.
And so I now have the pleasure of bringing on the mentor of Black America's Attorney General, the fount of this, Reverend Al Sharpton, who is for 4 decades a central figure in the U.S. struggle for racial justice, from the streets to the Senate, a civil rights leader, founder of the National Action Network, and of course, host of MSNBC's Politics Nation. Please take the floor.
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that I'm going to be very personal in the sense that I came to the UN 30-some-odd years ago with a great African leader. I was part of the delegation with Nelson Mandela when he addressed the General Assembly about sanctions in South Africa. I come many times since then, and I'm here today because I believe another great African leader, President Mahama, is raising an issue that is very important and personal to us. As Attorney Crump has said, we have fought on many cases, and we have, I'm doing a eulogy tomorrow, day after tomorrow, of a young man killed in Hartford, Connecticut. But all of these are just examples of a systemic problem that has not been dealt with. We can keep running from incident to incident, but if we do not deal with the underlying systematic problem, and that is that there are those that feel they have the right and the supremacy over other humans, and they will never be held accountable for it and never pay for it. This resolution is an attendance sheet on what nations stand for what. This is not a new call. I come out of the Martin Luther King School of Thought, but Malcolm X said we may have to go to the UN. One of his main disciples, Dr. James Smalls, is with us. Queen Mother Moore said this. Queen Mother Blakely's here. Sister, I don't come with others that have not. Sister Salam. These are people that have been in the streets for decades. And State Senator Sanders, all of us, but many of them preceding me. The question is not what the people feel. The people have stated their feelings and will continue to and must galvanize. The question is, what do nations stand for? When I hear nations saying they're going to abstain from a vote, how do you abstain from being a racist and a bigot? How do you abstain from paying your debt to people that you worked for centuries and never paid? How do you abstain from the guilt and the blood that's on your hands while you deposit money in banks that your forefathers didn't earn and our forefathers worked and never got paid? Your Excellency, I say it's personal because in 2007, a reporter came to me from a local tabloid, the Daily News, and said that they were doing something around Black History Month in America. And they wanted to do a trace of our family tree. I told him, fine with me. He said, I'll be back. He came back with another reporter. He said, do you know your great-grandfather? I said, no, I knew my grandfather on my father's side. I didn't know my great-grandfather. He said, well, we traced him. He said, do you know where he was from? I said, they were from Florida, my grandfather and my father. He said, no, they were from Edgefield, South Carolina. I said, no, I never knew that. He said, your great-grandfather was named Coleman Sharpton, and he was owned by a woman named Anna Thurman Sharpton. He said Anna Thurman Sharpton was the aunt to Strom Thurmond, a leading segregationist. He said the reason we found it is that when Alexander Sharpton died, his widow, Anna Thurman, sold her slaves to Florida, who was your great-grandfather. That's only 3 generations from me. We talk about this stuff like this is some bygone generation. My mother had to sit in the back of the bus and couldn't help me with homework when she came to Brooklyn, New York, had me. I never sat in the back of a bus, but I was raised by them that never got paid for what was done. We are sitting in the United Nations, but it is in the United States where they're right now deciding whether they will continue to allow us to vote properly. They're going to vote on whether or not we are going to have our right to voting, our right to redress. And if the United Nations sends a resounding message on President's resolution that we don't care about the debt owed, you are signaling those that are trying to trump the world that you can do whatever you want to do to us. So my challenge is, and the experts have given the great background and the preceding speakers have given the facts, but my appeal is that you will not define our humanity. You will define where you stand for humanity. When you vote for your nation, history will record that after the genocide perpetrated on people, after the worst form of abuse that we've seen in terms of the slave trade that is in this resolution, that if your nation would authorize you to either vote no or have laryngitis and act like you can't speak up at all, then you are co-signing this brutal form of slavery. There will be nobody that will duck being called on the carpet tomorrow. Either you stand for justice or you sit with the unrighteous. Either you stand... Either you stand for justice or you are part of the problem. Either you stand for those that want to be free or you're just as bad as the slave masters that held us bondage. Thank you.
Thank you to the Reverend for sending us off home in the right way. Just before this, we have 1 minute, which is allocated to Senator Sanders. Yep.
Does he want my seat? 'Cause I gotta go.
Oh, you're gonna go. Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah, you go.
Reverend Sharpton, please. Your Excellency, and many excellencies, in my 1 minute, allow me to say that I am so impressed. There are so many heroes and sheroes of mine in the room, too many to mention. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Al Sharpton, the Reverend Doctor, Ron Daniels, New Yorkers for Reparations, Nikichi Tiafa, Jennifer Mickens. Sometimes you have to stop and soak in where you are in history. Sometimes you have to realize that there is a change afoot and you have been part of this change. We are blessed to say that. The work ahead is daunting. The work that you are doing is changing the world, but it is going to be fought back. One person said that the old is dying, but the new is not yet born. Now is the time of monsters. This is what we have to struggle with. But you're not alone. New York stands with you. I'm talking about New York. New York has 2 commissions studying reparations, even as we speak. And both of them are learning with you, learning from you, and trying to share with you. We will compare notes. We will advocate together. We will march together. This will not simply be decided in this beautiful building. This will be decided on the streets of New York, in America, and other places. We will have our moment. I end with Reverend Jackson, Reverend Dr. Jackson. He said that we need to go from aid to trade. And of course, we need to go from charity to parity. All right. God bless you.
Now we go back to our moderator, or rather, I am your moderator. Of course, your head is going to spin around after having such a wonderful sermon, but we just want to end off by reminding us that a crime does not rot, and neither does our argument. We're not here to petition for our humanity. We're here to assert our standing.
Thank you. Thank you. Would you help me appreciate Dr. Panache Chigumazi, the moderator for this session? Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are nearly at that point. We've hit some high notes and it feels like we should be here for the next 2 hours. We've been energized and we are grateful, Reverend Al Sharpton. Namesake, I don't have the money you have, but we share the same first name. We want to call on the Deputy Permanent Representative of the Republic of Colombia to the United Nations. The Deputy, please, if you come, either we use that quickly and we will put your hands together before the president comes. This is the Deputy Permanent Representative of Colombia to the United Nations. I think he's going to speak in Spanish, so your earpieces will come in handy. And right after him, we are going to have His Excellency, the President of Ghana. Thank you, sir. Muchas gracias, señor.
Su Excelencia.
Your Excellencies, distinguished delegations, distinguished panelists, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, the government of Colombia thanks the government of Ghana and His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama for convening this event and applauds the proposed declaration that has been introduced as an initiative that Colombia fully supports and which we believe is necessary and timely. Our country has decided to support it as part of an external policy committed to the demand for the rights of people of African descent and the recognition of the historic impact of the transatlantic slave trade and racialized slavery. This discussion, as we heard today, comes at a time when, paradoxically, some certain sectors of global debate seek to minimize or even make invisible the persistence of racism and its historic roots. For millions of African people, people of African descent, the history of the transatlantic slave trade is a historical turning point that defined destinies, reconfigured continents, and left scars that continue to condition people's lives. In Colombia, these memories are not something foreign to us. They are part of our identity, of our combat, and of our commitments. This is why it is fundamental to educate people on the past and strengthen multilateral mechanisms that make it possible to address the structural causes of racial inequality. The idea is not to continue to be tied to history, but rather to understand it fully in order to identify colonial structures that still subsist and to work collectively to dismantle them. In Colombia, this commitment has guided our recent foreign policy. This very decisively, the Vice President of the Republic, through the Colombia-Africa strategy, we have called for transforming the former roots of slavery into roots of freedom, knowledge, and technical cooperation, as was mentioned last week in Bogota. This technical cooperation, academic and economic cooperation will make it possible for us to achieve shared prosperity. In our recent capacity as pro tempore chairman of CELAC, we've heard a high-level agenda proposed guided towards consolidating a bi-regional connection between Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean under the leadership of President Gustavo Petro. Last week in Bogota, we welcomed successfully the Forum CELAC Africa. This was a concrete milestone of this rapprochement. This meeting, Mr. Chairman, was not simply a matter of declarative. It made concrete progress on a joint roadmap on South-South cooperation, historical justice, commerce, and investment, and bi-regional political coordination. So we reaffirmed that our people are not far from each other. They have been historically distanced, but today we have an opportunity to rebuild our links on the basis of dignity, equality, and mutual recognition. Colombia, Mr. Chairman, reiterates its support for this process and for your leadership, and welcomes the fact that Ghana has promoted this conversation with historic vision and political clarity. Let us be clear, the reparation begins by naming the facts, by understanding the effects, and to commit ourselves to multilateral actions that make a different future possible. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, señor. Thank you, the Deputy Permanent Representative of Colombia to the United Nations. We appreciate. And now, to wrap it all up for us, our host, the African Union champion on slavery and reparations, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana. You could use the podium, or you could use... Thank you, President Mahama.
I don't need a podium because my wrap-up is 2 words. Thank you.
On that